Hello and welcome to our show. We have a show planned for you today that I am so excited about. Our subject is hummingbirds. Yes, those darling little birds that we all love. And here with us is Dan Sweigard. He is the proud owner of Wild Birds Unlimited, right on our very own Houston Road in Florence. And I'm so glad that you came out and are with us today, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you're all about birds. We'll talk about hummingbirds later, but Wild Birds Unlimited, tell us about your shop.
I started very young. My mother got me interested in bird feeding, and once I retired, I thought it was a good time to open this wonderful shop that you get to share this hobby with our friends and neighbors in the area. So we've been open for about 8 years here in Florence, and we try to bring that joy of bird feeding to all the people of the Florence area.
It's not a pet store, it's all about birds.
It's all about birds. We have seed and bird feeders and bird baths and a lot of nature products that are enjoyable to look at and touch and play with, for sure.
That's so good. Well, let's get right to the meat of this today, Dan. One of the favorite birds I know in the whole universe, everybody, I can't imagine anybody that doesn't love hummingbirds. So tell us important facts that you want us to know, because some people think they know and they don't know. So I want you to start us off with what's one of the most important things you want us to know, and which are come to our area, and how do they get here?
Okay. Probably the hummingbird is one of the most amazing birds that I've ever encountered. Against all the odds, if you think about the bird, it is one of the tiniest birds, going from a range of 2 inches all the way up to 8 inches. There are over 330 species across the New World, both North and South America. And with that, they have these incredible limitations on what they can do compared to other birds. They have very weak legs. They can't walk very far, so they have to fly everywhere. Their brain is the size of a BB, but as you'll hear a little later, it's very well developed. It makes them exceptional for their adaptation to survive and grow here in our environment. And we have a very favorite that comes to our area in Kentucky, and that is the ruby-throated hummingbird. The ruby-throated hummingbird is distinguished by that bright red patch right underneath its chin. One of the unique things about this patch is it's not literally red. It actually acts like a prism and reflects the available light back to your eyes, so you see the red. So occasionally you'll look at this same bird and it'll appear black. It's just an impact of the feathers and the prism effect. It's only about 3 inches long, but it's definitely one that we like to refer to as the fairy of the forest. They're so much fun to watch and so much fun enjoyment they bring to us each and every day. But like all the hummingbirds, they are ones that are beating the odds. And how do they do that? They have a unique bird structure within their wings that allows them to do a very special motion with their wings that most birds don't. If you think of most birds, it's strictly an up and down. So all their uplift is on the push down, and that makes the bird rise. But a hummingbird goes in a figure 8, and that causes a whirlpool or a tornado effect, so they actually get uplift when they're swimming down and also when they're going up. So they can actually rise or lower with each stroke. It also allows this incredible balance where they're one of the only birds that can fly sideways and backwards.
And backwards.
And backwards. It's just incredible. And that is part of their escape mechanism. They can move in any direction. And I talked about the BB-sized brain, but the BB-sized brain sounds very tiny to us, but the bird is very tiny. And in fact, its brain's proportion is one of the largest in the animal kingdom compared to its body size. And so it's a very well-developed brain. It gives them incredible power that other birds don't have. One of the developments is they have the ability to see and sense things all around them, where most birds only see straight ahead.
Wow.
So where most birds kind of sense things coming up from behind them as a fear mechanism, A hummingbird knows what's going on in all directions. That way he can dodge and move in case he wants to capture an insect or get away from a predator. He can go in any direction at any time.
That is so. Okay, so tell us, where are they? They're not here all winter, so where are they coming from, Dan?
Their migration is just a fascinating story in and of itself. This tiny little bird, 3-inch bird, travels over 2,000 miles one way each year. It goes as far north as the Arctic area, and then it goes all the way down for its migration to Central America, Mexico, South America. Probably some of the unique characteristics is it takes off on its migration and it stops and eats all along the way. And it remembers where it stopped and ate at all along the way.
From the past migration?
From the past migrations.
I mean, that is incredible.
It's a fascinating story. And they get to Florida. And they get to Florida area, and here's this giant gulf, 500 miles nonstop. So they fuel up for 10 or 15 days. They'll add as much as 40% of their body weight into a special fat layer right under the skin. And then when the winds are right, they take off for a nonstop 500-mile flight all the way across to
because they
Mexico.
can't. There's nothing to eat, and there's nothing for them. They had to prepare. That is so amazing. I mean, nature is so incredibly. It's a mystery.
It is.
And it seems unbelievable, but we know. I mean, it's been studied. I mean, it's true. It's just amazing. What else do you want us to know that's very important for us? I know you brought a feeder. Where do you want to go with this?
I'd like to share just a little bit about their feeding technique. This is just a typical feeder that we use. It is just a simple container that holds sugar water. It is a fuel for them. It's not their only fuel. They eat about 75% insects and protein, but when they're trying to fuel up for migration, they're looking for nectar. That nectar can come from flowers or it can come from a man-made source. So our mixture that we put out to attract hummingbirds is pure sugar water. It's 1 cup of sugar to 4 cups of water. A very simple mechanism you can mix up in your house, keep it extra in your refrigerator, and put it out fresh. That's the key for the birds, is put it out fresh. Because it's typically sitting somewhere in the hot summer sun, you want to make sure it doesn't go cloudy and gets changed out every 2 to 3 days so it's fresh. They have a unique structure, which I'll show you on our next slide here. Their tongue is almost 3/4 the size of their body. So if you can see the tongue sticking out here, it's amazing tongue. It goes into their head and actually curls around to like a spiral for protection. It shoots out almost 3/4 of the length of their body. It actually splits in two, and it can grasp the water, nectar. It can go in and out of the nectar 15 times per minute, sucking up a nectar, very rapid pace, and that's their jet fuel to go hunting for more insects and so forth.
Oh, this is so remarkable.
They have to
remarkable bird.
They have such a high metabolism, they have to eat approximately every 10 minutes from the time they wake up.
Every 10 minutes
every 10 minutes
to eat.
they're looking for food, trying to find something new.
Well, why don't they come to my feeder more often? Let me, while we're on that, climate change. Now, I attracted them better a few years ago. Now they don't come as early, it seems. I mean, has there been a change, or is it just they're not coming to my house?
There's been a lot of changes. It's difficult to attribute everything exactly to climate change and draw all the conclusions, but we're seeing different migration patterns because of the winds, because of the temperatures. We're seeing later arrivals and earlier departures.
Yes.
Just changes that affect the insect population. When the insect population changes, the bird populations.
Sure.
And the birds are kind of a precursor of big things. If we pay attention to the birds, we'll kind of understand some things that are probably changing in the environment.
Oh, I see, and I believe that too. Dan, let's talk about babies.
Babies, okay.
Babies.
When the mother and father arrive back here, we talk about pair bonding. And hummingbirds don't typically pair bond. The female will migrate by themselves. The father will migrate by himself. He usually arrives first and stakes out his territory based on a feeding location. The mother then arrives and she stakes out her territory based on her nesting capabilities. She will then alone build this elaborate, very special nest that I'll share in just a second. But she will then look and choose a mate. The male hummingbird will do a courtship ritual with some fancy aeronautic maneuvers, trying to attract her.
Impress her?
Impress her,
Okay,
definitely. I'm the
okay.
one for you. She'll mate, and he is out of the picture. He is on to his next conquest.
Oh, I see.
So everything is up to her. She'll build the nest and sit in the nest, and this is what the nest will look like. It's very functional in that it sits on a very small set of twigs, usually within 2 or 3 at a juncture, as you can see. The neat thing about this is while this is a nest that has been used, the opening looks fairly large. When she first builds it, it is very tight and drawn together. But it's built in such a way that it can flex open as the bird grows in the nest. A beginning baby egg is only the size of a coffee bean, because the entire bird only weighs about the size of a nickel.
The entire bird weighs?
The entire bird.
The mother weighs?
Weighs about a nickel.
Oh my goodness! So this is drawn so nothing can get them.
Can get
protecting
in
the
there
baby.
And
The
keeps
babies.
it very tight. As they grow, it can stretch, and it's a very unique nest in that it's put together with some old grass, some broken leaves, and then as you look very closely at it, there's lichen, which is usually found on the base of trees. But if you look even closer, you can say, well, what is holding that together?
Yes.
She uses tree sap and spider webs and carefully wraps the nest to hold all this tightly together with a very flexible interior so the birds are comfortable yet well protected.
What
it's fascinating.
A remarkable story this is, Dan. So those babies are down there. How many babies could be in there?
They typically will have 2, but sometimes 3, and they'll typically have at least 2 broods per year.
2 broods per year, 2 to 3 in the nest. And then, now, Dan, when they come out, are they really teeny?
When they're first born, they are. Within 30 days, they're full grown, ready to leave the nest.
Oh, they
Just
don't.
that
So
fast.
they don't go out teeny though. They're down in there till they're pretty good size to make it.
Yeah, she's feeding them by hand.
This is
or beak, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
One at
And
a
let me
time.
ask you that too, because Dan, as you showed us the pictures, it's a very sharp-looking. I guess it is a beak, and you know it's a needle, it's a beak.
Yes.
But now, is she feeding them the nectar? Is she feeding those babies?
She's typically not doing the nectar. She's actually catching insects to give them high energy protein, and within that protein is most of their water that they need for their nourishment. For their nourishment.
Okay, so she's not, but is she really putting that down in their little mouth with her big, long, sharp?
Yep, exactly.
But
she's able to open her beak. The babies are a fairly large area, and she can put it right down into the throat cavity, and they can take it from there.
Oh my goodness, what a story. What a beautiful story. Dan, what's this about? What's this last picture about?
This is just a quick picture. Kind of shows how well they're camouflaged. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you could be standing right underneath a tree with a hummingbird on it, a small nest. They so disguise the nest that it actually looks just like a bump on the tree. And if the mother is kind of squat down where you don't see her beak sticking out, you just think it was a little knot on the tree. It's a fascinating ability to stay camouflaged when you're the only one protecting the nest.
Oh yes, thank you, Daddy, for leaving us all. But that's how it goes with hummingbirds.
Absolutely.
Okay, Dan, I think there was something else that I wanted to ask you. You answered that. You say yes, climate change is making a difference, and the young let's see, I wanted to know about the young. And I guess that was my questions, most of them. I want to know, though, more about what you have to tell us.
Just a couple of fascinating facts of what makes them able to survive. Because 20% of the babies that are born will probably make it through their first year. It's a very difficult year for baby birds, that first year. And once they make it past their lifespan typically is in the 3 to 5 range, depending on what kind of difficulties they'll encounter and the food sources, which is a large driver. But what really powers them is this natural ability. While they have this super brain, they have some unique features with this brain that other birds don't have. They can react instantaneously, if you will. They would be described as the dragster of the bird world. They can go from 0 to 45 in just a matter of seconds.
Really? 45 miles an hour? That's
45 miles
quick.
an hour. Their flapping of their wings, which we see as a blur, 78 to 100 times a minute. So it's just an incredible pace, and you can see that the metabolism is very high to maintain that pace.
Yes.
So they've
eat
got to
every
be
10
eating.
minutes. They've
got to be eating and fueling up in some nature. So that brings us to one of the things that I enjoy talking about is while they start from the smallest egg, they grow into one of the smallest birds, but their numbers are increasing.
Oh, this is good to know.
That's good
this
to
is
know.
a great news. Why
a lot
would you
of it
say why?
because they're so fun to watch. People participate in the hobby at hummingbirds at one of the highest rates across the country.
Oh, sure. Who couldn't love a hummingbird?
There's estimated.
So the feeders and all are helping them to multiply? Would you say people taking care of them and helping?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
The early tests that they've done at different universities are the bird population survives at a 25% improved rate where there's good quality bird feeding going on.
Is that right?
So it improves their nesting capabilities quite a bit.
That is so good to know. Well, Dan, we're almost out of time. We have learned so much today. What a knowledge of hummingbirds you have, and I know you know about other birds too, and we may have you back. Cardinals are another one of my favorites. But we've learned so much. You've been listening to Dan Sweigard. He is the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited. I know he'd love for you to come out and check out his store. He has everything you would need to bird watch, bird feed, bird anything,
Yep,
right? Isn't that
absolutely.
right, Dan? Hummingbirds are just God's precious gift to us. Keep those feeders clean, and as always, you be happy and keep smiling, and I'll see you soon.